Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Today's Wednesday, the 15th of January. You guys paid your taxes, your quarterly taxes from last year? We did yesterday. I renewed my commitment to libertarian ideals after paying the government thousands of dollars. That's just from last year. Now we got to get ready for taxes for this year to file everything. Good God, I hate the government. And after watching some of the Pete Hegseth confirmation hearings yesterday, I think my hatred for many of these people who lord over us all is quite well founded. I'll play those clips for you. We'll talk about it. We'll have a little fun. But it looks like the good news is that it will be Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth incoming. Yes. Joni Ernst, that Republican lady who is threatening not to confirm him. Apparently the pressure campaign against her worked because she's now bowing to MAGA. We'll talk about all that and more. And then Andrew Tate, yes. Was it Grizz Cheese, I think, over in the chat was saying something new happening with Andrew Tate, or is AP just getting around to it? They're just getting around to it. There's much more important things to talk about. But I watched Ben Shapiro's half-hour-long diatribe against Andrew Tate. And it is dividing the conservative world, or the right wing, or the MAGA sphere, and libertarians as well. So I thought it would be worthy of chatting about once I actually saw this take. Let's see here. Well, let me turn up the microphone for you guys. How about this? Mic check, mic check. There. Good morning, pineapples. How is that? Is that much better?
Good morning, pineapple.
Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Devon Eriksen, he's the author of The Theft of Fire, will be joining us this morning at 7:30 a.m. Central Time. He's been on a few times. He's an interesting dude. I think he's pretty fascinating, actually. He wrote this yesterday. He was responding to a boomer who was upset because Andrew Tate apparently has infiltrated the churches, meaning that a lot of young Christian men are very interested in what Andrew Tate has to say. And so many in the religious right, specifically the Christian right, are talking about how deeply concerned they are that young men are attracted to the ideology of a alleged sex trafficker and member of the Islamic faith. And it's fascinating because when I read Devon Eriksen's take on it, here's what he writes. He talks about Andrew Tate and says, okay, fine, I'll explain Andrew Tate. I shouldn't have to. It should be obvious, but you don't understand, so I will. Andrew Tate is heaven's punishment upon you for your sins. And your sins must have been many and vile, else heaven would not have visited a punishment like Andrew Tate upon you. The mere fact that you hate Andrew Tate and your grandsons love him describes the exact nature of your sin. You hate what your grandsons love, and you love what your grandsons hate. This is your sins. Fascinating point of view. And speaking of sin,
wake up, you sexy bitch. It's time to sin.
It's time to click that like button on the stream if you haven't already. How can you call yourself a fan of the show? Good morning, pineapples. Make sure you click the like button. If today is the first time you've ever watched the Wake Up America show, then make sure you click that follow button as well on the Wake Up America show. You should get notifications, and that's your quest fanning. So make sure that you click the follow button, so hopefully you will not be in that kind of a predicament. We're going to speak to Devon Eriksen this morning, fellow Dane, I believe. Devon Eriksen will be joining us this morning at 7:30, so about 15 to 20 minutes from now we'll hear from him. Judge Andrew Napolitano is going to be joining us this morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good and very nice. Judge Andrew Napolitano has decided that Tulsi Gabbard is no longer worthy of his support after Tulsi Gabbard came out in favor of Section 702. That is the warrantless wiretapping, the spying that libertarians like ourselves have been warning about for years. He joins the chorus of liberty lovers like Justin Amash and others who've declared that now, thanks to Tulsi Gabbard bowing to the will of senators like Tom Cotton and others who demand that she support warrantless wiretapping, spying on American citizens unconstitutionally, that after she caved to the elected representatives' demands, that she is no longer worthy of support and she has turned our back on us. He writes this in a column that will appear on his website, judgenap.com. Tomorrow, I get the early access and I get the early interview, and Judge Napolitano will come on this morning and speak to us at 8 a.m. Central about that. And, of course, speaking of sinning...
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh. Money-wise. If you guys are interested in booking the AP DC Liberty Tour, you better get them quick. The spots are filling up. We only have 30 adult tickets that will be sold for this trip, and they are filling up fast. So if you do plan on going with us to Washington, D.C., now is the time to book. Why now, Austin? Well, because, first of all, we don't want to get sold out. And second of all, we also are... offering a buy one, get one sale right now. So if you want to go to the APDC Liberty Tour with us, you got to have an adult ticket, at least one for every adult. And you can get a buy one, get one 50% off deal right now. And if you're like Cecilia or some of these other people who get the 20% discount, you get an extra 20% discount off of the buy one, get one. So the savings stack. So if you guys want to go with us on the APDC Liberty Tour, Revolutionary War weekend in Washington, D.C. Hang out with me, Steffi, Hazel, maybe my brother Justin, maybe Camellia, definitely me, Stephanie, Hazel, and lots of our friends as well who will be joining us. Then make sure you get those tickets today at 4libertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. Hey, Kim, you're saying, help me win the lotto so I sign the family up. If you have more than 2 people that you want to bring, more than 2 adults, we will offer some group discounts. So again, we do have the buy one get one discount going on right now. But if you have a group of more than 2 adults, like a larger group, then we can work out a deal so that you guys can come. But number of adults is capped. So once we hit 30, it's done. Just because, again, this is the first time Stephanie and I have done something like this. We want to make sure that we can run this effectively and efficiently. And here's the thing. If this goes well, our first kind of influencer tour guide situation, then the next one's going to be to Argentina. Yes. There we go. Good morning, pineapples. Looking very good and very nice. Pete Hegseth is going to apparently fly through his confirmation hearings after being questioned by senators like this.
Mr. Hegseth, are you attracted to obese Hawaiian women with a below normal IQ?
No, Senator.
Mr. Hegseth, are you aware that I used the potty all by myself today?
No, Senator.
Mr. Hegseth, you seem to be pretty fertile. If confirmed, would you commit to putting a baby in me?
No, Senator.
Mr. Hegseth, are you saying under oath that you refuse to impregnate a portly Hawaiian retarded woman, even if she can use the potty all by herself? Mr. Hegseth.
Okay. So maybe that was fake. So what if it was fake? Kermode Bear is like, what TF? People would be like, oh, I thought I was watching, I was going to get some real news. Guys, no, we're just joking around a little bit this morning. Don't you guys love a good laugh? Come on, you do. Don't you know she can use the potty all by herself, Pete Hegseth? Yes, I was laughing about that. Maisie Hirono. What I thought was the key point of the yesterday, or at least that I thought was the most important, was this quote from Pete Hegseth. Here's what he says. He says, "We won World War II with 7 4-star generals. Today, we have 44 4-star generals. There's an inverse relationship between the size of staffs and victory on the battlefield. We don't need more bureaucracy at the top. We need more warfighters empowered at the bottom." Excellent. I think that that's a very wise statement. We won World War II with 7 4-star generals. Today we have 44 4-star generals. You have to know that a lot of the people who are opposing Pete Hegseth are doing so because he probably is going to go in there with a hack and slash attitude. Here's another take. This one is not a deep fake. This is a real video from the hearings yesterday. Take a listen.
Respect for lawful authority. You have made statements to your platoon after being briefed by a JAG officer. Well, by the way, would you explain what a JAG off is?
This is not a deep fake, guys. This is not a deep fake. This is real.
I don't think I need to, sir,
Why not?
because the men and women watching understand.
Well, perhaps some of my colleagues don't understand.
It would be a JAG officer who puts his or her own priorities in front of the warfighters. Their promotions, their medals in front of having the backs of those who are making the tough calls on the front lines.
Thank you.
Yeah, damn. Good answer. Good answer. Oh, thank God. I see John Bordenero is over there helping to unlock the bonus content this morning. Hey, oh, hip hop hooray. Oh, we appreciate you, John. Thanks so much for that. He went and he bought some. He went to Jared's. No, he went to For Liberty Shop and he bought some delicious For Liberty. We were having some problems with the Shopify store. It was like, it wasn't able to ship for whatever reason, but we solved those technical problems yesterday. Thankfully, thank you to Angela, who was working tirelessly behind the scenes yesterday to help us to make it so that we can serve you guys delicious tea. You can get our For Liberty now, and it should be available to be sold anywhere in the United States at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4, libertyshop.com. You love to see it. Pete Hegseth, a real man, is Hegseth won't make it through, but I love what he stands for, says John Rail. I kind of disagree. I think he will make it through. But he says a flawed man is a real man. Yes. I mean, it is true. Let's take a listen to Pete Hegseth talking to Pocahontas yesterday.
In other words, you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals. In other words,
I just love that. Let's watch it again.
You're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
Have you led an audit of any organization? Yes or no? I don't want a long answer. Yes or no? Have you led an audit of any organization of which you were in charge?
Senator, in both of the organizations I ran, we were always completely fiscally responsible.
Yes or no? Did you lead an audit?
And the way
yes or no? Did you lead an audit? Yes or no?
What are you afraid
of? You can't answer this question. Yes or no? Did you lead an audit? Do you not know this answer?
Senator, every
yes or
part
no?
of my leadership
yes
of these organizations
yes
has
or
been
no? Did you lead an audit?
misrepresented
I will
from
take
top
that as
to
a no.
bottom.
What were the findings? So there were no findings because you've never led an audit. What guidance did you give the auditors? None, because you've never led an audit. Nobody expects you to be an accountant, Mr. Hegseth. What we expect is for you to understand the complexity of this Pentagon budget process that is absolutely necessary to outfit our warfighters. Have you led an...
That is a nice little meltdown there from Senator Tammy Duckworth. Here's Scott Jennings on CNN discussing it.
Well, in short, I think Pete Hegseth kicked their asses today. I mean, it wasn't even close. They didn't lay a glove on Hegseth. No mistakes. Calm, cool, collected. I mean, before the thing even started, you had this like Code Pink, protester freak show trying to disrupt the hearing. That's the Democratic base, by the way, which probably explains why the Democrats on the committee acted in such a bizarre and unprofessional way. I was appalled at some of the way these senators handle themselves and some of the lines of questioning. I mean, Tim Kaine sounded like a sex pervert in his questioning of Pete Hegseth. Blumenthal, who lied about his service in Vietnam, questioning Hegseth's qualifications. qualifications. You had Gillibrand, you had Warren, you had Hirono going on unhinged rants about things. Angus King obviously doesn't understand what it's like to fight terrorism. On and on and on. Hegseth was cool in the face of this unhinged questioning. They made him look good today. It would be difficult for a Republican to vote against Hegseth after the Democrats' unseemly mudslinging today.
There was another key moment from the hearings yesterday.
How many other patriots, how many other people of conscience? We haven't even talked about COVID and the tens of thousands of service members who were kicked out because of an experimental vaccine. In President Trump's Defense Department, they will be apologized to. They will be reinstituted with pay and rank.
There you go. Hegseth talking about those who are discharged for refusing to take the COVID vaccine. They will be apologized to and reinstated with pay and rank. It's a new world, ladies and gentlemen. It's a new world. It is a new world. If you guys are interested in more of that, you guys can... wait a minute. This guy is going to get confirmed. It's my opinion on that one. We are going to speak to... Who are we going to speak to? Oh, Devon Eriksen will be joining us here in a little bit less than 10 minutes. And I'm going to share with you his insight. This is what he posted on X. I think this was yesterday in response to Christians who were complaining about the young men in the church being interested in Andrew Tate. This is what Nancy Percy wrote. She talked about a former grad student, sent an email saying, all my male students are fans of Andrew Tate. They are even including quotes from him in the yearbook. They teach at a classical Christian school. Even Christian young men are being drawn in by these online influencers if we do not offer them a healthy, attractive, biblical model of masculinity. Interesting. And Whitebeard was writing about this. It's quite long, talking about judgment. Our hands are covered with blood, saying that, oh, we need examples of masculinity is all I hear. Look, the family as God designed it provides that. A father and a mother who provides, etc., etc. Andrew Tate embodies the absolute negation of true biblical manhood. If it is not a matter of offering a model. It is a matter of directly teaching them that a life lived like Andrew Tate is a life ruined, a body defiled, a soul destroyed. And to the young men looking up to him, I say bluntly, you will never know true manhood, never know true love. Devon Eriksen has a different take. He says that he shouldn't have to explain it, but that Andrew Tate is heaven's punishment for your sins. Let's go get Devon Eriksen and we'll talk to him about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Don't go away.
The hazardous materials while serving in the military and have an illness or condition as a result.
If so, you may be eligible for VA benefits and services.
Whether you need health care or want to file a disability compensation claim related to military exposures, VA is here to help.
Visit va.gov/military-exposures to learn more and apply today.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
Tired Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com. Good morning, rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. That's right, network. It's not just the Wake Up America show. There's 3 shows. 1, Wake Up America show. 2, Culturama. 3, Liberty Tonight. And if you don't know the show schedule, you can always find everything you need to know about For Liberty Network at forlibertynetwork.com. We make it easy around here. You know, whose website is that? For Liberty Network. Well, that's me, AP for Liberty. And if you're like, oh, Austin, what's the shop so I can go and buy the DC tour tickets? Well, it's For Liberty Shop. So pretty much if you see something For Liberty, it's probably going to be one of our properties. So make sure you check out the other 2 shows on the network, Tuesdays and Thursday nights. I think you're going to love it. When the mainstream media is really trying to catch up with people who are out there doing what we're doing in podcasting and with what my next guest is doing in publishing. He's the author of a science fiction novel. It's a very masculine science fiction novel. His name is Devon Eriksen, and his book, Theft of Fire, is available now. He's joining us live on the Wake Up America show. We're glad to have him here. Good morning, Devon, and welcome back to the show. We're glad to have you.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Devon, you caught my attention yesterday with your description about Andrew Tate. You were kind of responding, though, not just kind of like to the whole Andrew Tate question, you know, in a vacuum. You were responding to specifically a Christian man who was bemoaning the plight of modern Christianity in that young people are increasingly attracted to the ideology or mentality that people like Andrew Tate are advancing online. And the way that you describe this, because this kind of boomer guy was bemoaning the rise of Andrew Tate, you said that Andrew Tate is heaven's punishment upon you for your sins. Explain.
Yes. Well, people usually look for explanations for things that upset them, and then they look for explanations for those explanations until they reach the thing they want to get mad at, and then they stop. So it's like this guy asks why until he reaches Andrew Tate, and then he creates this worldview where suddenly, for no reason at all, Andrew Tate comes along and his grandsons are really into Andrew Tate and young men are leaving the church, and he doesn't see how he and his generation are the authors of Andrew Tate. And if Tate didn't exist, it would have been necessary to invent him. In fact, society kind of did. It created an Andrew Tate-shaped hole into which Andrew kind of fit himself. So what happens when you neglect the needs of young men, the wants of young men, and you purge your church and your society of masculinity, you're going to create this sort of underground market demand for that which advocates for and encourages masculinity. And it becomes more and more urgent until some guy named Tate, or whatever it is he's going to be, can come along and say, hey, I'm going to fill this demand. And, we can argue endlessly about whether he's saying, oh, an opportunity to get rich, or, oh, an opportunity to save society, or both. But at the end of the day, Tate represents the latest mutation of a long line of people who tried to stand up and say, hey, wait a minute, this is not okay. This social engineering of our society away from men is not okay. In the 90s, you had Warren Farrell. And Warren Farrell was a men's rights activist and an ex-feminist. And he was a boomer. He was a polite, middle-class boomer intellectual. And he spoke their language. He was very polite. He was not vulgar. And he came to his own boomer generation and he said, men have needs. Men are not pack mules. They are not beasts of burden. They have needs. They are not infinitely invulnerable. They are not an ATM from which you can withdraw infinite money while spitting on them. This is not going to end well for you. You need to start caring about men. And they didn't listen to him. They spat on him. They reviled him. So then you got, Neil Strauss, The Game, the pickup guys. And they were reviled as well, trying to teach young men, okay, I'm in a bar, there's a woman, what do I say? And then that evolved into something called the Red Pill, which is a bunch of guys who were sort of descendants of the pickup artists, but they were a little more interested in developing their masculinity for the purpose of becoming attractive to women. And Andrew Tate is a descendant of these Red Pill guys, where he took their material and he said, well, okay, being attractive to women in this way is important, but men face a lot more problems than that. And I'm just going to get up there and talk about masculinity. So everybody wants to point the finger and blame him because they don't like the message. But most of the people doing the blaming created the need for the message.
Mm-hmm. So I found this very fascinating and quite what's the word, provocative when you wrote, and I think you've pretty much explained this, but I just want our listeners to hear this. Yeah. You said that you have told them, these young men, that they must be like Christ and sacrifice themselves for others, expecting nothing in return, not even the love and worship that Christ receives. That's the pack mule sense, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I think, and I'm not really religious, so I see sort of the Christian evangelical movements sort of from the outside, and it gives me an outsider's perspective. And when I look at modern churches, there's this, especially the evangelical churches, the Christians with a capital C, there's this unquestioned conclusion that, because we're about Christ, because we like and approve of Christ, because Christ is the whole point, that we're going to preach to men, you should be like Christ. And my brain says, hey, wait a minute. According to your whole theology, Christ is supposed to have sacrificed himself for the benefit of humanity. But these evangelical churches are turning to men, and only to men. They're not saying this to women, and saying, you should be like Christ. You should sacrifice yourself for the benefit of others. I think there was a kerfuffle on X a few weeks ago when this character with the very small face, Charlie Kirk, is giving this sort of religious lecture to young men, and he says, don't spend any money on yourself until all your wife's wants are satisfied.
Yes.
Like, wait a minute. This is like an encapsulation of how Christians have been talking to men for about 30, 40 years of, here is what you are supposed to do. Here is what you are supposed to give. And everything in the past that you received for that, well, that's just sort of white privilege or male privilege or whatever. And we're going to take that away. And our model of good is that you are being good to others by sacrificing yourself. And a good to you is not good. You're just a means to an end. And young men are leaving these churches in droves.
Where do you think this comes from? I mean, because, you couldn't accuse Charlie Kirk of reviling white men or, trying in some ways, he's kind of like a patriarchal sense. But
could.
Really? Okay, go ahead. Tell me.
I absolutely could. See, the question between liberals, modern liberals, and mainstream conservatives, this is not an argument between a political faction that favors the interests of women and a political faction that favors the interests of men. This is an argument between a political faction that wants to serve women by empowering them and a political faction that wants to serve women by protecting them. They both center the interests of women and view men as simply a means to the interests of women. So, the mainstream conservatives, the evangelical conservatives, they don't come out and insult men the way the left does, but they work against men's interests, and they're not really interested in the quality of life of Gen Z men, especially. They're really interested in what they can get from them and what they can get them to do.
You write that unlike Andrew Tate, who is an uncomplicated man and likes to punch his problems in the face, you're sort of a thinker. And you say, but in you and your people, I have met an insurmountable challenge, because I could spin 1,000 psychological theories and still never understand an entire generation who would sell their children and their children's children to Beelzebub in exchange for a cookie, an oatmeal raisin cookie, you write. And then you say there will be no forgiveness for you. I mean, you say that you could never understand it. So that's quite unsatisfying to me to hear you say, because I was hoping that you might be able to help me understand.
Well, I'm certainly not going to stop trying. But what I mean is that there's sort of a visceral recoiling in disgust when you really understand the boomer. Because when you really look at their culture, their lifestyle, and the cultural messages they have put out throughout the decades of their existence and their cultural hegemony, it's always been about their needs. And it's always been about not empathizing with others. And it's always been about not caring about your children. So I can analyze that intellectually, and I can say, here's why this happened. And I can talk about the eternal September effect. And I can talk about the way they gargled KGB propaganda by the bucket load as teenagers. And intellectually, you can understand that. But emotionally, empathetically, there's always a visceral recoiling at people who hate their own children. Like, really, how messed up do you have to be to hate your own descendants enough to say things like, well, make your own way in the world. We're not going to leave you anything. Or, oh, why don't you, instead of being hedonistic, why don't you, be responsible and get married and have kids and fix the society that we wrecked by being selfish and hedonistic?
Well, I'm not.
It's like, okay, you can intellectually understand, but unless you're a psychopath, you can never empathize.
Well, there's this fascinating sort of return to like traditional masculine principles that I see happening in like the Zoomer generation, and a lot of the people that you see in the youth who are on the right, who are fascinated by Andrew Tate, who move towards him and are attracted by these ideas, where they sort of embrace what I would call maybe the hypermasculinism of the 1980s. They're very interested in their physique and in the gym, but they're not interested in women. And as a matter of fact, they prize virginity. Whereas when I was a child growing up in the 1980s, there was the hypermasculine society, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, but we bullied people for not being virgins. So there's this strange juxtaposition of a desire to return to the 1980s. And when you look at the statistics, Devon, young people by and large are virgins, and they're not drinking alcohol. And I wonder, the way I described it, maybe it's similar to what you're saying. Maybe you would disagree with me, but you talked about an Andrew Tate-shaped hole, and I described him as sort of the natural result of a hyper-feminized society, that he is essentially the chemotherapy to the cancer of postmodern feminism. It's not to say that he is a good thing, but it is to suggest why he exists, because, like you said, society has created him. But chemotherapy on its own. What's that?
And he's the backlash.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not the backlash by himself. He is the latest iteration of the backlash that has been building for a long time. The reason we're talking about him by name is that his iteration of the backlash was the one that went mainstream.
Mm-hmm. Would you say, though, overall, making an actual moral judgment of Andrew Tate and his behavior, and from what at least publicly available information, he doesn't strike me as a necessarily good man. If I'm looking at him in a vacuum, this doesn't seem to be a healthy form of masculinity as I understand it. Is it in your mind? Even if it's an equal and opposite reaction, that doesn't necessarily make it good or healthy or, positive for society. How do you feel about him, just looking at him in a vacuum?
Well, there's a difference between that which is a positive vision for society and that which has a positive effect on society. He has to be understood as a corrective measure, not as a model for the future. Young men and advocates for them and the red pill guys and so forth have been saying for decades, this is what needs to change. And at first there was, hey, young men are not doing okay. This is what needs to change. And the collective answer was, we don't care about young men. We are going to censor you off social media. So now you get the backlash, and everybody looks at his behavior or his vision of the world. But, this guy is focused on a single topic. What he's doing is save masculinity. And that is something that society desperately needs, and you can't have a positive masculinity in a society that has no notion of a positive masculinity. If Andrew Tate were telling men, get married, be a patriarch, have 2.5 children and a dog, and be a pillar of society, he wouldn't be a revolutionary and he wouldn't be correcting the problem. You know, that was tried. That was tried. It was ignored. It was spat on. So there's no more asking society for permission to be masculine. There's, I will be masculine whether you wish it or not. And whether that has a positive effect on you or not is up to how these other people react, not to the young men. I think saying that his vision is not positive is blaming the victim. You know, you're criticizing a certain segment of guys for living by the law of the jungle. Well, the boomers tore down civilization to the extent that where we live looks kind of like the jungle. So what do you expect them to do?
I think I am by and large, I'm in agreement with your worldview. I guess in some ways, though, I wonder if, because you seem to come at things from a secular worldview, which I also share, do you think that these young people need religion for their moral values? Because clearly you and I do not.
Well, I think that
not everyone, it seems, can probably live like you and I.
I think that civilizations need a religion. I think that was the great mistake that the internet atheist movement made, was you have people like Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens, who was actually a vile human being, by the way. And they're highly intelligent. And they look at society and they say, oh, religion does this, religion does that, and these beliefs religion have are false. So I'm just going to remove them so everybody can be like me, which is this classical example of cloistered academic intellectual arrogance. The assumption that you can just engineer society and, oh, this pillar obviously isn't load bearing because I don't like the decor. Let's just smash it out. And it turns out that society, European society, has always had a smattering of atheists among its highly intelligent intellectuals. And this goes back to like the Renaissance and the Middle Ages. You know, writers like Voltaire and, you know, some of the Erasmus could write whatever they wanted and not be prosecuted by the church so long as they wrote in Latin. It was tacitly ignored because that was for the intellectuals, not for the common man. Well, if you take the average person and you remove Christianity and you remove religion, they're not going to do the intellectual thing and develop their own philosophy from scratch. They're going to look around for another religion. And when you remove God from Christianity and you take the Christian values without God, that's basically communism.
I mean, I tend to agree with you. However, it's interesting, you know, in an age of populism, this is a decidedly elitist worldview that you take.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, before people get mad, I said you have to be smart to be an atheist. I did not say you have to be dumb to be Christian. Many of the society's very smartest people have been Christian. So I see Christianity as this sort of pre-boxed philosophy of life. And if you're very, very smart and do a lot of philosophical thinking, you can say, I'm going to take this off the shelf and use it. Or you can say, I'm going to take this off the shelf and take it apart and customize it. Or you can say, I'm going to leave this on the shelf and build my own. And all of those are okay. Because, you know, Richard Dawkins isn't going to go feral without Christianity. But there are people who would go feral without Christianity. And Richard Dawkins didn't understand that some people really, really need this pre-developed philosophy of life and morality and good and evil that was tested over many, many generations. And of course, to take the subject back to Andrew Tate, who has ostensibly converted to Islam, which a lot of Christians are crying about. I think things like that are a reflection of the fact that certain other people, certain boomer preachers, have taken the Christianity box off the shelf, and they've sort of recustomized all of them and broke them so they don't work anymore. You know, the version of Christianity you see in churches today does not really usually work for young men. And the Christianity of 50 years ago, 75 years ago, kind of did.
I will note that in recent years, I have been reading that Richard Dawkins has started to echo some of the things that you've actually been saying, and referring to himself as something of a cultural Christian. But this is his own reaction to the loss of free speech in the United Kingdom, the nonsense.
The inevitable consequences of my own actions, which I did not foresee.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your explanation sometime about why Christopher Hitchens was an awful person, because he was quite a big influence in my early life, but I don't have time for that now. Devon Eriksen, you are the author of the science fiction novel Theft of Fire. Where can people grab a copy of your book?
Anywhere books are sold. Amazon, we are on, you can order us at Barnes & Noble. We're on a service called Draft to Digital, which puts us on most ebook network platforms. So basically wherever books are sold. The audiobook is coming soon. It will not be on Audible because it will be on services that believe authors get paid. And we are hoping to get the sequel, Box of Trouble, out later this spring. Okay.
Devon Eriksen, author of Theft of Fire. You can get his book at anywhere fine books are sold. Devon, great conversation. Not the types of conversations that you'd get to have on most shows, especially this early in the morning. So thank you for making yourself available to us and sharing your thoughts with our audience. We look forward to hearing from you, hopefully again very soon.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. What did we think of Devon Eriksen? Shall we give him a round of applause? Is 7:55 a.m. Central Time too early to be having conversations about Voltaire and about Latin? I'm not quite sure. Maybe? What do I need to do to get a bigger audience? Do I need to shoss your tats? As they say in Scotland, shoss your tats. Mr. Newsy, Look, It's Liz, Mongoose87, Joni Rankin, Sign of Jonah, Steelbringer, and many others. Are you not entertained? Good to see you. Cell Blocked, thank you for going to forlibertyshop.com and buying some delicious Founding Flavors coffee. You should buy some Founding Flavors coffee as well, and some For Liberty while you're there. You can actually get it delivered. There you go. Get yourself some Boston Harbor Black, some Gray's Revolt, or some Mango Manifesto. We've got a whole bunch of awesome teas. We'll be right back with Judge Napolitano to talk about why he's done with Tulsi Gabbard on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP For Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise compromise your principles for a cup of coffee. Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
Were you exposed to hazardous materials while serving in the military and have an illness or condition as a result?
If so, you may be eligible for VA benefits and services.
Whether you need health care or want to file a disability compensation claim related to military exposures, VA is here to help.
Visit va.gov/military-exposures to learn more and apply today.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
If I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors, what would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist, Visit AP for Liberty Shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show, and that's on the 4 Liberty Network. Well, what's the 4 Liberty Network? Well, that's me, 2 other shows, Culturama and Liberty Tonight. You should know the Wake Up America show schedules, right? Monday through Friday. But the 2 new shows that we've launched on the network are Culturama and Liberty Tonight on Tuesday and Thursday nights. So make sure that you're following them as well. You can find everything that you need to know about the 4 Liberty Network at 4libertynetwork.com. That's the number 4, 4libertynetwork.com. Thank you to everyone who has been going to the shop this morning, making generous purchases to help support the network. I hope to see many of you in Washington, D.C. for my Liberty tour. We're going to visit Thomas Jefferson's memorial. We'll talk a little bit about him and his life and legacy, and I'll take you all to George Washington's home, Mount Vernon, for Revolutionary War weekend. It's going to be a spectacular trip, so make sure you book your tickets today at 4libertyshop.com. All right, the big news. Well, Tulsi Gabbard, who has made news in recent years from her departure from the Democratic Party. She joined the Republican Party. Now she's at the top of the list, tapped to be the Director of National Intelligence, essentially the queen of all spies. The CIA would report to her. So, will she make it through confirmation hearings? Only if she supports a controversial section of the U.S. Code which allows the government to abrogate our Fourth Amendment rights, spy on us, essentially, without a warrant. One of the chief architects of the destruction of 702, the man who has been behind the push to overturn it, his name is Judge Napolitano, and he's joining us live on the Wake Up America show now. Good morning, Judge, and Happy New Year. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Austin. Always a pleasure to be with you, my dear friend, no matter what we're discussing.
Yes, Judge, very concerning. This was brought to my attention, actually, from former Congressman Justin Amash, who revealed that in order for Tulsi Gabbard to get through confirmation, she was being pressured by senators like Tom Cotton and others to support a controversial provision that would allow the government to spy on us without a warrant. Can you give us an overview of this and your thoughts?
When Edward Snowden made his revelations that the government was engaged in mass warrantless surveillance, and that the use of the FISA court to obtain FISA surveillance warrants was just a fig leaf, there was some feigned outrage in Congress, but rather than defunding this mass warrantless surveillance, Congress made it lawful. And in order to do so, it engaged in trickery. So the trickery was, we need to spy on foreign persons. The Fourth Amendment doesn't apply to foreigners. It only applies to Americans. So members of Congress argued. Of course, if you read the Fourth Amendment, it applies to all people. There's no distinction with respect to their place of origin. And in fact, the Supreme Court has held that. But the amendment to FISA said the feds can spy without a warrant on any foreign person. What happens when that foreign person talks to an American? Well, then they can spy on that American. What happens when that American talks to another American? Well, then they can spy on that American out to the 6th degree of conversation. If you do the math, that allows warrantless spying on all Americans under the guise that they are talking to somebody who knows somebody who spoke to someone who was a foreign person. So if I call my aunt in Florence, Italy, or an art dealer in London, or some bookseller in Geneva, Switzerland, then they can spy on me. They can listen to all my phone calls, and they can listen to, and they can capture all the keystrokes on every device that I use. All of this without a warrant. Not just the communication with the foreign persons, totally benign commercial communications, in the case of my aunt, a family communication, but all of my communications. Then I call you, They can listen to all of your communications. Then you call your IT person, they can listen to all the IT person's communications. So in all of this is captured in a database of Americans who spoke with foreign persons. The last year for statistics on the database is 2021. There are 3.4 million people in the database, to which the FBI has total access without a search warrant. So if you multiply the 3.4 million out to the sixth degree of conversation, you'll hit 330 million Americans before you complete the process. This is what Tulsi Gabbard voted against when she was in Congress. This is what she spoke against. This is what was used by the FBI to spy on Donald Trump when he was running for president. This is what the FBI used to spy on Donald Trump when he was president. This is what she changed her mind 2 days ago when Justin Amash called you, and she said she now is in favor of. So she's more interested in this job than she is in fidelity to her principles. Shakespeare once said, "Lilies that fester smell far worse than weeds." There is no enemy like a former friend, a person you once loved and embraced. I am utterly disgusted at what she has done.
What's fascinating about this, Judge, is that I'm reading this editorial from the Wall Street Journal, and it's by the entire editorial board. And
Hold on 1 second. 1 second.
Sure.
You need me now?
Yeah, we have a hit at 9:25. Will you be able to?
I'll be there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead, please.
No problem. So I'm reading the Wall Street Journal's editorial board writing in a few days ago saying Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation conversion on Section 702. They say she flips on the crucial intelligence collection tool to win Senate GOP support. Is she believable? Now, the premise of this op-ed from the editorial board is that they actually conclude that they don't believe that Tulsi Gabbard has flipped, and they paint it as a bad thing. I also don't believe, like the Wall Street editorial board, that she's flipped on Section 702. But I think it's a good thing. Isn't it quite possible that Gabbard is being dishonest with our representatives who are pressuring her?
Well, if she's being dishonest, she's committing a felony. Since while members of Congress can lie to us, if we lie to them, it's a felony, whether under oath or not. So I don't know the forum in which she revealed this flip. They'll no doubt ask her about it when she's under oath. That, of course, would compound the felony. But they'll know. And we'll know after a week in office if 702 is being used, because if she is not allowing the intelligence community to use it, Austin, there are over 100,000 federal government spies in the United States. 60,000 alone work for the NSA. They will be screaming bloody murder if she takes their favorite unconstitutional tool away from them.
How many of them were at January 6th?
Yeah, well.
Right, Judge,
ask Chris Wray if you can get him to give a straight answer.
Yes. So here's what Senator Langford says. He says that he's a little.
He's the culprit, by the way.
Yes.
He's one of the culprits here that got her to flip. I like him, but every time I saw his face, it just turned my stomach because of what he's doing to the Constitution. He's one of these. Oh, I'm a conservative Republican who believes in limited government baloney. He believes that the government should capture every keystroke on every device we have without a search warrant. In his Constitution, there's a hole where the Fourth Amendment should be. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem at all. I mean, this is why you're on here, Judge. It's so entertaining and exciting. He strikes me as a garden variety neocon. He says that if she comes out and says, no, I want to oppose all 702 authority, that literally shuts down all of our national defense gathering. All of our national defense gathering, Judge? 702?
That's because since 702 was enacted, these federal agents don't get search warrants. They don't even know how to get search warrants. They have come of age knowing that they can spy on anybody and everybody all the time by engaging in a felony called computer hacking. So to what Senator Langford is complaining about is how painful it is to go back to obeying the law. The law is an intentional obstacle to the free use of spying in order to preserve our privacy. This whole thing was generated by general warrants issued by by a secret court in London that allowed British agents to knock down any door they wanted and search where they wished and seize whatever they found. Today, the same thing happens, but it's done digitally. The whole purpose of the Fourth Amendment was to prevent this, to impose an intentional obstacle in place of the government when it wanted to invade our privacy or assault our liberties.
The Wall Street Journal writes, the question is whether senators should believe her conversion. Her previous criticisms were largely specious and demonstrated her lack of understanding about the threats against the United States. They talk about what the role of the DNI is. They smear her. This is how the Wall Street Journal smears her. They say that her statements across her career have demonstrated a knee-jerk instinct to underestimate threats. She was an apologist for Syria's Bashar al-Assad on chemical weapons, and she blamed Vladimir Putin's aggression on NATO expansion. A confirmation conversion doesn't erase that dangerous record. The entire Wall Street Journal editorial board believes that Tulsi Gabbard is lying because of her dangerous career of underestimating U.S. threats. It sounds as if Tulsi Gabbard might have been a little too libertarian for their taste in the past.
Listen, some of them are friends of mine, and they know I feel this way. They probably couldn't care less how I feel, but they are big government Republicans. They believe in the Patriot Act. They believe in spying, and they condemn the views that she articulated. Listen, I don't know where she is in this, and I don't know what she's going to say. There's no evidence that Bashar al-Assad used chemical weapons. There's tremendous evidence that the invasion of eastern Ukraine was commenced by the American coup d'etat in 2014 and the efforts to bring Ukraine into NATO. They are repulsed by the idea that somebody could be in government who would disagree with them. I'm sorry, I have to jump on air. My other job, which is
I know, I understand, Judge.
Now calling me.
Okay, I feel terrible. One of my guests desperately wants me to ask you about whether or not I have grounds to sue Mark Zuckerberg for working with the government and suppressing my speech online. Very briefly, would you say I have a case? If so, would you take it?
Well, I don't practice law anymore. I just give guidance like this. But if Zuckerberg targeted your speech, it's a private platform. He owns the bulletin board. You're going to have to find another bulletin board. Not the answer your friend wanted.
Judge, I hate to lose you, Judge. We'll look forward to having you again next Wednesday. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for accommodating my schedule. God love you.
No worry. Thank you very much. That's Judge Andrew Napolitano. See, Liz, I've told you I would ask the question, and I did. I didn't expect that he was going to have to go, but he is working now for Newsmax these days, so he has to go on there. So, Liz, I asked the question. It sounds like he doesn't think that I have a case, so unfortunately. But we'll find out if we can speak to him again and I can sort of pose to him. But the problem was that Facebook wasn't operating in a vacuum when they suppressed my free speech, when they suppressed my speech online. They were operating at the behest of government, which is what I would have asked him if I had had time. Thanks so much to all who tuned in to the Wake Up America show and helped to unlock the bonus content, because now you're going to get it, Bobby. Here's the bonus content. We'll be right back with more on the Wake. Oh, yeah. Starbucks has gotten rid of their open door policy. They now think that you need to buy something after, well, we'll talk about it more when we get back on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Thanks, guys.
Could buy you through history. What if pocket money serves as a point of reflection? It reminds us of the evolving dynamics of consumer culture. Over time, $20 transitioned from life-changing sums to smaller joys. Yet its story provides unique insight into history, inflation, and human priorities. Let us remember these milestones and embrace mindful spending. Share this journey. How far has $20 traveled for you? Let's spark the conversation.
Somebody's campaign coffers really are struggling right now. So she gonna keep saying trans, trans, trans so that people will feel threatened. And child, listen, I want y'all
I
to
am
tell
no
me
child.
whether or
Do
not
not call me a child. I am no child.
I want
Don't
to
even
find
start.
out
I am a grown
which
woman.
of those
I am 47 years
emails
old. I have broken
actually
more
have
glass ceilings than you
Chairman,
ever
I
will
am
in your
reclaiming my
life.
time.
You will not do that. I
Order.
am not a child.
I am reclaiming my time.
If you want to take it outside,
Mr. Chairman, the committee is not in order.
Order.
Point of order. Point of order.
What the gentlelady said was, we can take this outside if you want. And
Okay, so
that could mean you could go outside and have a cup of coffee or perhaps a beer, or, I mean, we have
seriously
lots of conversations outside. So I'm going to rule that that it was just a
that it's okay.
That it's okay.
All right, and then point of inquiry.
And remember, this is a slippery slope you're going down, because we have.
Oh, you're going down the
committee,
slippery
as
slope.
you know.
So just to be clear, in this committee, we can ask we can threaten violence on someone as long as excuse me.
I did not threaten violence.
Excuse me.
I threatened no
Excuse me.
violence. I threatened no violence.
There was no violence.
As long as at the end.
I threatened no violence. None. You're making shit up as you go along. You might want to figure this one out.
Order. There was
Mr. Chairman, cursing today.
No violence.
Mr. Chairman,
no violence.
I'm going to appeal the ruling of the.
These are our elected representatives. This is the best and brightest. The cream of the colonies. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Peterson. Have you been enjoying the conversations today? They were kind of big brain, weren't they? And then I just dumbed it down. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm just so thankful that I've got such a great audience. You guys are fantastic. I mean, Stephanie and I, we bid it all. We bet it all on a podcast network and an e-commerce store. And certainly we are so, so grateful for all of you who tune in, who buy from the shop, who click the like button, who click the follow button, and help us to expand the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty. Somebody's got to do it. Dang it. If you want to help support the show and you want to have an absolute blast this summer, why don't you join us in Washington, D.C.? It's the APDC Liberty Tour this summer, May 1st through 3rd. FYI. If you would like to join us in Washington, D.C., there are 30 adult tickets that will be sold. No more, and maybe a few less, but hopefully not a few less. I'd like to sell out the whole ding-dang thing. Join us May 1st through the 3rd in Washington, D.C. for the APDC Liberty Tour. Guess what, guys? It's time to book your trip. If you want to go, book them quick, because we were kind of surprised at the demand for the Liberty Tour. We were kind of like, we said to ourselves, okay, well, if we get at least 5 adults, then we will do the trip, because, we're always like, well, what if we fail? What if nobody wants to go with us to Washington, D.C.? Well, we booked our 5 tickets, so the trip is a go. Nice. You love to see it. But then it's kind of like, okay, now we also need to have a ceiling. We have a minimum amount of people to go, and we have an absolute top amount of people to go. So book your tickets today. Why book your tickets today for a trip that's not happening until May? Because you want to get one of those tickets before they're sold out, obviously, and because I've got a deal going on right now for you guys to save 50% on a second adult ticket. And you're like, oh, well, you do this with my partner? Or what if I want to go in on it with some friends? Yes, absolutely, you can do that. As a matter of fact, because Grizz Cheese, was it, or Gannon? I don't know if Gannon is Grizz. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Sometimes I get the usernames mixed up. But Gannon texted me this morning at the text line for the show. and asked if we could set up a Facebook group for people to be able to coordinate the trip in case people want to like share rooms or travel or transportation, etc. So we are going to do that. Stephanie's going to set that up for us this morning. So you guys, okay, different peeps, Grizz Cheese. Thank you for letting me know. So Gannon texted in this morning, was saying, hey, can we please get a Facebook group to help coordinate travel for people who are going on the APDC Liberty Tour? Yes, absolutely. So we're going to do that for you guys so that you can coordinate all of your travel together. Remember, all of the travel and getting to the events and all that stuff is on you. I know people are kind of like, well, hey, you know, what's the deal? Like, you know, it's not, stuff isn't like included. Well, the problem is that everybody has kind of different means and capabilities of what they can afford. And so I didn't want to book really nice hotels, and some people can't go because of this, and some people want to fly budget airlines. Some people want to fly nice airlines. So we decided, Stephanie and I, for our very first influencer trip, is what they're calling these things these days, that we would just make it as bare bones as possible. We would set up the itinerary and then expect everybody to be adults and to meet us there. Kids are free, by the way. So if you have 3 or 4 kids or what have you, then you don't have to worry about an admission fee for them. It's only for the adults. But I want you guys to make sure that you read all the terms and conditions. So when you go to forlibertyshop.com and book it, make sure that you read all of the terms and conditions all the way down here to the bottom, especially because it talks about what's included, what's not included. And since we have 5 adult confirmations already, the tour is not going to be canceled. And so we're on like Donkey Kong, baby. Yeah. The tour is capped at 30 adults. No refunds will be issued after April 15th, guys. So again, that's key because I have to book rooms and confirm lots of things. So make sure that you read all of the terms and conditions. And if you want to save 50% on your second ticket, book it today. I don't remember the exact date of this when the buy one get one goes away, but I think it's it was a week for this deal. I'll have to check the back end. But get your buy one get one discount. And here's the thing, guys, you see that price. If you're a monthly sub to the show, then you get another 20% on top of that. Right. So it's not, you'll save it won't be $1,000 because you'll get your buy one get one. You won't pay $750 because you guys are obviously monthly subscribers to the Wake Up America show, aren't you? You are, right? Okay, good. Absolutely. Right. Because here's the thing. If you do this, you're going to save another $100. Even if you're a $5 a month monthly sub, you save $100. It's worth it. So, this is kind of where the benefits of being a supporter, a monthly supporter of the show really start to add up, pay off, because these are the kinds of things where you really want to save big bucks if you want to be part of the tour, okay? So thank you, L-Dubs, for the kind. I wish you could join us, my friend. But we are hopefully going to be able to see Camellia Peterson there, as well as my brother, Justin Peterson. So make sure that you guys get those booked. And guys, just book it today. Get it done. Get it so that everything's confirmed, so that you don't have to worry about being the 31st person to come along and say, I want to go on the tour with you guys. Okay, so please go to forlibertyshop.com. And then don't forget to, we do have one of these available, one private dinner with me at my favorite restaurant in the DC area, which will be at Chadwick's English Pub. So if you want to hang out with me, Stephanie, and Hazel, all by our lonesomes for a nice private dinner, then there's one of these that's an upgrade. One of these that are available. And then, of course, the Liberty Tour merch package upgrade as well. If you want to get gifted by me and Steffi when you arrive, just make the trip awesome. And then, of course, we also have another upgrade. Join the live recording of Wake Up America with Austin Peterson, AP's Liberty Tour. Austin, why isn't that included in the tour? Why do I have to pay upgrade extra, people might ask. Well, it's because the more people that we have, the larger a venue that I'm going to need. So if 10, say we get 30 people to go, if 15 people and then all their kids decide they want to join the live recording, then I'm going to need a place with maybe up to 30 to 50 people, a room where I can record a live stream, have fast internet, accommodate everybody's needs. So that's why these things are optional upgrades, because we need to know, it helps us also kind of keep the crowd down in a way, so that, I can ensure that everybody has a wonderful experience and I can accommodate everyone. So, because it helps pay to book the room. So there you go. Quest Fanning says he's going to stay at the Hilton Alexandria Marks Dinner, cheap for a 4-star, and then 10-minute Uber to Central DC. There you go, guys. So if you guys want to be a part of the Wake Up America shows AP DC Liberty Tour, May 1st through the 3rd. Please book those tickets sooner rather than later. Because again, I don't want to have to turn anyone away. And here's the thing, like, we haven't sent this DC Liberty Tour out yet to some of our larger lists because I wanted to let you guys, who are the super duper fans of the Wake Up America show, have plenty of time to see it, hear it. Like, it's been about a week since we announced and launched this, but soon we're going to start hitting all of our big lists hard to try and sell all the tickets. And at that point in time, somebody that, may not even be a part of the Wake Up America show community might book it. And, I want to give you guys first dibs at it. Okay. So you've got the first dibs. You've got all the information that you need. Book your tickets, get your buy one, get one discount, use your 20% off discount code that you get for being a monthly supporter to the show, and join us in Washington, D.C. for an unforgettable weekend. It's Revolutionary War weekend, guys. Revolutionary War weekend in Washington, D.C. We're going to go to Mount Vernon, see George Washington's house. They're going to do a recreation of George Washington's war tent, and they're going to do Revolutionary War reenactments. And so much fun is going to happen there that weekend. So we're going to the American History Museum. We're going to go to the Jefferson Memorial. We're going to take a Congressional Capitol tour. You get to meet my congressman and friend, Dr. Bob Onder. Might get to meet Camellia Peterson, my brother, Justin Peterson. I mean, all that alone, I feel like is totally worth it. Don't you think? There you go, guys. So we'll put together a Facebook group for you guys so that you can coordinate with one another. But of course, I see you guys already coordinating the chat as well. So work together. That way you guys can try and get there. We appreciate you very much. Thanks so much for supporting the Wake Up America show. It's going to be a fantastic trip and a long 4 years for Joy Behar.
No, I would not. I would not normalize him. And she says, I love our country. How do you love your country and support and normalize somebody who was a convicted felon who really wants to destroy the country, in my opinion? I don't understand how you say you love your country at the same time as you normalize this convicted felon, which I can say now every day.
A lot of my family voted for Trump. They love the country and vote for him. I think that people make these decisions for a lot of reasons.
Okay, fine. And I would not be the person to say don't do it because I believe in free speech and everything about it. I personally would not do it. No one's asked me, but that's another story. No, I would not. I would not.
She's going to have a rough 4 years, guys. A very rough 4 years. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, guys, click that like button and make sure that you're following the channel as well. If you've never seen the Wake Up America show before, and today is the first time that you're hearing my voice, just FYI, my name is Austin Peterson. They call me AP for Liberty, so you might be watching the Wake Up America show on one of my social media accounts, rumble.com/AP for Liberty or x.com/AP for Liberty. And if today is the first time you watch the Wake Up America show, I'm glad and grateful to have you here. So if you enjoy the commentary that you've been hearing today and you've been listening to for a little while, the conversations with Devon Eriksen, Judge Napolitano, and the great clips that we've been playing for you and all of the offerings that we have, then I'd love to have you come back and join us. The show's schedule is every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a great way to start the day. And if you guys want to be a regular guest, make sure that you set an appointment to come back again every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Our listeners are also texting the show to let us know what's on their mind or to ask questions or to send me guest suggestions. And the text line is 573-319-1586. Again, that's 573-319-1586. Sarah Sanchez, unfortunately, I didn't see the text message that you sent during the Judge Napolitano interview. I apologize for that. I'll try and ask him about this concern that you have sent me about from Minnesota and what's happening in Minnesota. I see that concern. I will try and bookmark that so that I can try and ask him next Wednesday. Judge is very busy these days with his job over at Newsmax, so I didn't get a very long interview with him. Quest Fanning was weighing in this morning about the Andrew Tate discussion that we've been having. He says that the underlying pre-Christian culture in Europe was masculine and Christianity is a feminine religion, according to Quest. He says the balance is why Christianity worked so well in Europe for so long and why the subsequent society prospered. Ben Shapiro weighed in on the Andrew Tate question yesterday. Take a listen.
Exactly did the right embrace Andrew Tate in the first place? Well, because there was a three-step process that took place on the right. First, in response to the left hating men, the right delinked strength from virtue. Virtue was supposedly the thing that made you a cuck, that made you unable to defeat the left. What is conservatism conservative and all the rest? In order to defeat that, you have to do things that are not going to be virtuous. Then the right actually linked strength with transgressive behavior, because the idea was that it took bad men to stop bad people, which sometimes is true. But then there was the final step. Some on the right have now fallen into the trap of believing that so long as someone is purportedly anti-left, no matter what insanely non-conservative thing that person believes, from the wonders of promiscuity and mistreating women to standing for Islamic jihadis, all of which Andrew Tate has done, you can commit literally any sin, up to and including being a and be treated to applause. Well, this has to stop because it's stupid and it's counterproductive and it is morally wrong. It turns out that in a reactionary world, the pendulum swings back and forth from wild, disgusting, terrible, radical feminism to sometimes wild and disgusting anti-woman trash. But there has always been in human life one constant. This is a conservative point. That constant is virtue. That's the constant. If you're exactly did the right.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I agree largely. Devoid of virtue. I'm not entirely certain if Andrew Tate is necessarily a symptom or is also part of the disease. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one. We've been talking about Andrew Tate this morning. Earlier when I spoke to Devon Eriksen, he claimed that the problems of Andrew Tate are due to the boomer generation hating their grandchildren, and that the reason why that Andrew Tate essentially is filling an Andrew Tate-sized hole that the postmodern society has created. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. The text lines, again, are open at 573-319-1586. Again, 573-319-1586. Devon Eriksen talked to us this morning about Andrew Tate, and in this he says that Andrew Tate is heaven's punishment upon you for your sins. And your sins must have been many and vile, else heaven would not have visited a punishment like Andrew Tate upon you. The mere fact, and Devon is writing this in response to Christians who are concerned about the influence of Andrew Tate on young Christian men. Devon says the mere fact that you hate Andrew Tate and your grandsons love him describes the exact nature of your sin. You hate what your grandsons love, and you love what your grandsons hate. This is your sin. Devon Eriksen writes that you have reinterpreted Christianity as a hatred of men. Now, I think, of course, most Christians would reject that, but I think Devon's explanation for this is really key and quite important, and definitely something that we need to chew on today as we go about our days and start and think more deeply about these topics, if that's what you like to do. I know most Wake Up America show audience members are the type to think deeply about many of these topics. That's why the audience tends to be a little smaller than others. We're just smarter, right? But think about this. He says that you have told your grandsons that they are not beloved children of God, not beneficiaries of Christ's sacrifice, not beings of inherent worth who are naturally good and deserve their place in this world. You have told them that they must instead be like Christ and sacrifice themselves for others, expecting nothing in return, not even the love and worship that Christ receives. Andrew Tate doesn't love your grandsons. They are nothing to him. But so what? They are also nothing to you. Now, that's an interesting point of view, quite controversial there. I think probably a lot of hackles were probably raised when I read that. But let's get into this for just a moment as we close out the show this morning and talk about this specifically. Let's zoom in on this paragraph where he says that you have told your young men, your grandsons, that they must be like Christ. And I think most Christians would probably nod their heads and say, yes, they should be like Christ and sacrifice themselves for others. I think conservative Christians would probably still be nodding along. Yes, men should sacrifice themselves for others, join the military, throw their bodies in front of the tanks, do backbreaking labor to take care of their wives and their children and their responsibilities in this life. I think Christians are probably nodding along. But here's where someone might dig their heel in. Devon says that they must be like Christ and sacrifice themselves for others, expecting nothing in return, not even the love and worship that Christ receives. Now that is the key. That really is the key there, because if you are to be like Christ, if you are to sacrifice yourselves for others, then should you expect nothing in return for that? Not even the love and worship that Christ receives? Think about the men who do sacrifice their lives for others. Are the men in our society, in the military, or who work in dangerous jobs like in oil rigs or in other professions or careers where they're literally sacrificing their bodies, trading their flesh and blood for pay in order to provide, are they receiving the love or worship that Christ receives? I think that really there, even though it's the most provocative part of that paragraph, I think that really is the heart of this discussion. Because if men are told that they must sacrifice themselves and will receive nothing, not even glory in sacrifice, well, ask yourself this: why would someone, maybe not like Andrew Tate, but why would someone choose Islam over Christianity? In Islam, under a jihad, at a minimum, you become a martyr if you sacrifice yourself for your cause. But what do you get if you sacrifice yourself for Ukraine? Right? If the people who are willing to throw your life and your body away for some what they consider to be noble cause, per se, should there not be at least the glory of martyrdom? No, there's no glory of martyrdom. Or if it is, it's usually a false sense of patriotism. The whole, I appeared at the fallen soldiers' funeral, so that means that I really care deeply about them. When in reality, I would be looking for ways to try not to have to sacrifice their lives, right? In some ways, you consider that Islam lionizes martyrdom. Islam lionizes jihad. And if you're killed, it becomes a joke, of course, in Western civilization, you get 72 virgins, right? At least you get something for your sacrifice. What do you get in the United States for your sacrifice? When men sacrifice their bodies, when they sacrifice their spirit, their souls, when men sacrifice everything, what do they receive in return? Not 72 virgins. Do they receive martyrdom? Do they receive lionization? No, they're spit upon. In some ways, it's very much like in the Vietnam War when soldiers returned from that conflict. The way that the hippies and many on the left and many of the American people treated soldiers, right? This is, you might say, the beginning of the degradation, of the disrespect for the great men of society who sacrifice themselves, sacrifice their lives. And when I say their lives, I don't necessarily mean their life in terms of like giving their entire life, but it can include that. But to give 20, 30, 40, 50 years, it is fascinating to have conversations with boomers who many of them, is this not to say all, I know we have a lot of boomers who listen to the show and but you have to understand that you are a self-selected group of boomers. And if you're watching the Wake Up America show, you're probably not like most boomers, right? Most boomers are going to be watching the Charlie Kirk show, right? They're going to be watching, other shows that are a little bit more kind of mainstream right-wing narratives and things like that. So if you're here, I'm not, painting with a broad brush. I'm excluding specifically, of course, you in that audience, not just because it's convenient to me, but because I truly believe that you being here are a part of a self-selected group of elites, intellectual elites. So now that I'm done patting the back, I will say that to my experience, speaking anecdotally, it is that boomers seem to have stopped learning after a certain age. After around 30 to 35 years old, they stopped learning and they stopped adjusting to the world around them. They were able to largely, they had the world carved out for them by their parents, the greatest generation. And then they believed that because they were able to get jobs and be able to work at careers for a majority of their life. They were able to get pensions. They were able to work at jobs where you knew that if you worked a certain amount of time, you were going to get a pension and you were going to be taken care of in your old age. Now we work on a 401k Roth IRA system, and does it work for some people? I'm sure it does. Not for everyone, definitely not, especially not for the self-employed people like us. And certainly the economy is turning much more to this self-employment model, which in some ways is in many ways, and I think most ways, is absolutely superior to the concept of becoming I won't say corporate slave, but I will say a servant to the regime of working for the man, because there is still the boomer mindset of, well, just put in the hours, put in the extra work, and you will be rewarded at some later date. In reality, you're not going to be rewarded at all. You'll be cut loose as soon as you are no longer useful. But the boomer generation, right, the middle management and the upper management, the people who hold these positions who probably should have retired long ago, of course, many of them did not do so. And many of them having stopped learning at 30 to 35 years old and are still just repeating tasks that they did, or some of them who might be retired, who might be lecturing people of my age or younger to lift ourselves up by our bootstraps. They might be ignorant as to the conditions that are in place. It's not to suggest that there isn't still opportunity here in the United States. It's not to suggest that certain generations might not be better off than previous generations. However, of course, it is, I think, an important note to understand that the sort of cold selfishness of mainstream boomerism, which hates, as Devon Eriksen says, which hates what their grandsons love and loves what their grandsons hate, seems to me to show that the disequilibrium between these generations is stark. It is a discussion that is necessary. It has everything to do with the economy of the United States. It has everything to do with the lack of true representation, not just in society and in media, but also in our elected representatives. The representation of the ideals to which young men may wish to strive is lacking. Therefore, as Devon Eriksen said earlier, there is an Andrew Tate-sized hole that Andrew Tate has filled. What do you guys think? Agree? Disagree? Love to hear your thoughts. Again, you can send them to me at 573-319-1586. Again, the text lines are open, and you can contact me at any time at 573-319-1586. And if you do so, then you'll be able to hear from me directly. Stephanie and I have been making phone calls trying to grow the Wake Up America show. I have one last appeal before we go, guys, and that is to become a monthly subscriber to the Wake Up America show. I know that in just saying this, you know that I'm turning to an ad, and some of you might be tuning out. But it is so crucially important that for us to be able to expand even further, to add more shows to the Liberty Network, that for us to be able to plan budget-wise for me to add, and I'm speaking to someone this week about potentially adding another show to the network, in order for us to be able to plan for the growth of this network, for us to sort of have inflows, like financial inflows, that we can count on, that we can say, and we know that certain people, who may have been monthly subscribers in the past, maybe they can't afford it now, and there's always going to be attrition, and we'll always be fighting this. But for us to be able to plan for the future, we need to be able to sort of guess about how much base revenue we'll have for the coming months, so that we can say, okay, this is what we'll be able to invest in. This is how much we'll be able to grow. This is how many new staff members we'll be able to take on. And so just a $5 a month subscription to the Wake Up America show, first of all, it gets you lots of benefits. But I'll be honest, when I'm talking to Stephanie and Brad, who have been making phone calls to you guys and to, my supporters around the country to try and grow our subscription network, whether it's through coffees or whether it's through teas. I mean, the truth is that I think people, they do want coffee, and sure, they do want teas, and yes, they want to, see a young family grow and help us, support us personally. But I think it is the case that people want to support the ideas, And people are monthly subscribers because they believe that I am a repository of these ideas, which I believe, of course, places a great responsibility on me. I think that, to some extent, I think you would say that I have been a good steward as a repository of these ideas. So I guess I would ask you, if you are not a monthly subscriber, do you believe that I am and have been a good and faithful servant and repository of these ideals? And if so, if you believe that, and if you're not a monthly subscriber, I'd like to ask you to become one today. And the way to do that, the easiest, fastest, simplest, best way that we can transact to do that, keep track of all of our donors and the benefits that you receive, I will talk about in just a moment. The best way to do that is to visit our website at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Okay, guys, so here's what you do. We walk you through. If you go to wakeupAmericaShow.com, you're going to see this webpage here, right? You see this hamburger menu, right? You can either go directly to the website by typing in wakeupAmericaShow.com/support, or you can open up the hamburger menu and come down here. Now, here's what I want to ask for from you is that you become a member of Peterson's Patriots, and that is $17.76 a month. And that will get you the 20% discount at the shop. That will get you also on the Peterson's family Christmas card list. So there are perks and there are benefits, but this is a show of support for the network to grow. And this is you saying, you know what, Austin, you are a good repository for ideas. If you want the liberty movement to move in the direction that I'm pushing, then please show that. Please show that through your financial support. And if you can't because of other financial obligations, I totally understand. And I hope that you understand why I ask, because quite frankly, the American Revolution was won because the Americans asked for help. They asked for help from the French, of all people. So, sacre bleu. If $17.76 is not available to you in your budgetary range, I understand. You can also join us at a $5 level. Don't tread on AP. You can become a member of the Freedom Ninja Army at $10 a month. But if you are... if God has blessed you and you are flushed with cash and you're capable of supporting us at a higher level, you can absolutely do so. We do have some people who are Action Jackson Plan members. My dad's a member of Grant's Army at $50 a month. And we do have one supporter, I think you know who it is, who is a member of Benjamin's Brigade. There you go. WakeUpAmericaShow.com/support. Help us to become cancel-proof. Help us to grow the Liberty Network. And of course, once you become a monthly subscription member, you get that 20% discount. So if you do want to go to the APDC Liberty Tour, then you get that 20% discount as well. Okay, guys? Okay, thank you so much for sitting through that. I understand commercials are not fun, advertisements are not fun, but if I didn't do this, we wouldn't be where we're at right now, which is growing like crazy 2.5 years later. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for listening to these opinions. I hope you enjoy them. Click the like button before you go, guys. We'll see you right back here again tomorrow on the Wake Up America Show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Serves as a point of reflection. It reminds us of the evolving dynamics of consumer culture. Over time, $20 transitioned from life-changing sums to smaller joys. Yet its story provides unique insight into history, inflation, and human priorities. Let us remember these milestones and embrace mindful spending. Share this journey. How far has $20 traveled for you? Let's spark the conversation.